Well, the vice chair is pretty sick, and I don't think it's because of my cold. No, she was trying to blame me for it, that I had a cold and a sinus infection. I don't know what she's got, but she's pretty sick. She's back in her hotel room. She was off the floor today, and Sally told me she's not great. Okay, we are going to try to go, hopefully we can knock through these two lists, 5 or 5:30. I'd like to stop at 5:30 if we can. Let's just see what kind of progress we make. We'll start where we left off, list number 43. This is a voting session, Education, Health, and Environment. I believe we are streaming. So we will, 328, are you ready, or should we skip you, States? Voting list 43, where we left off. Do you want a few minutes?
No, I'm ready to go.
Okay, House Bill 328, elections.
Yeah, I prepared for this like 3 days ago. Okay, House Bill 328, elections, polling place location restrictions repeal. If you recall, this is a cross-file to Senator Simon Ayers, SB 907. It repealed these provisions of law that limited the extent to which an election can be held in any building or part of a building that used or occupied by an establishment that holds an alcoholic beverage license. The Senate put on they put on an amendment that would require the state board to adopt regulations, and we limited those regulations to make sure the priority was that polling places would be in locations without alcoholic beverage license holders. So there's an amendment to conform it to SB 907 as passed by the Senate.
Question from Senator Simon Ayer, then we'll take the motion.
Just make sure, it also has that provision in there that for the primary, if they don't have the regulations.
Yes, it matches exactly.
Now a motion? It's been moved and seconded for a favorable recommendation. Would anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing not, that'll be a 10-0 and 1 absent due to illness on 328. Next, please.
House Bill 331, local government regulation of amateur radio station antenna structures. This bill codifies federal regulations stating that a local, including a county or municipal government, regulation on amateur radio stations must reasonably accommodate amateur radio communications.
Okay, we have a few of our pages here today. We welcome you. What we have first is one of our committee counsels, our attorneys, review what the bill is. We've heard them before, probably. We had a hearing, and now it's open for discussion. Some are very pro forma. They're fairly simple, not complicated bills. That's why we might move fairly quickly. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion on 331. Is there a second? Second. Discussion on amateur radio station antenna structures. Seeing none, no controversy, that'll be reported to the floor as a 10-0-1 vote. Next, please.
Okay. HB 355, Prince George's County Board of Education, Work Group Alterations and Orientation Requirements. This bill alters the composition of the Prince George's County Board of Education beginning on July 1, 2024, by removing the 4 appointed members from the board. The bill makes other conforming changes, requires the chair and vice chair of the board to be elected from among the members of the board beginning on December 5th, 2022, and requires that at the beginning of each term, each member must attend an orientation and be provided with materials that clarify the role of the member. The bill also establishes a work group on the membership and operation of the Prince George's County Board of Education, staffed by the Prince George's County Public Schools in conjunction with Bowie State University. The work group must submit a final report by December 30th, 2022. And the provisions regarding the work group do sunset within a year. There are two amendments. The Prince George's County delegation, I think it's on page 30 of your packet if you still have it. The Prince George's County delegation voted to add 2 members to the work group from different unions. That's on page 30. And Delegate Washington offered an amendment on page 31 that would add a member to the work group from the county council.
Please, Senator.
Just a quick question, Stacy. Where is the bill? Anything, I'm hearing different stories about this bill. Anything come to mind that you know of as to why it's being held up or so?
Because it's
I
sitting
guess
on
it wouldn't, we wouldn't have gotten it if it had been, would we? Okay, all right.
It's in our possession.
Right.
We're voting it.
Okay, no.
We always have to wait for a letter from the delegation before we can proceed. And it's been on the voting list for a few days, but we just haven't gotten to it, that's all.
No, I'm not blaming this committee, I just hear some other stuff.
Well,
Okay.
look, it's, if there are an amendment, it's got to go back. Hopefully the
All right.
House will concur. If they
Right.
don't,
Okay,
then we'll have,
I'll talk with you about it.
Yep.
Okay.
okay, any objection to the First Amendment, adding a representative from SEIU and one from AFSCME? The delegation is fine with it. There's a second one. The county council asked for a seat on it. Delegate Washington suggested it. I have no problem with it. I don't know if any objection to that. Seeing no objection, that's adopted. The bill as amended. Prince George's County Board of Education. Please.
Yeah, so thank you. So the implementation of the all-elected board is till July of 2024. Is there a reason why you went 2 years out into the future with that, or?
It's removing, right? It's just removing the appointed people and leaving the elected members.
Question. It's a long sordid history of the Prince George's County
Okay.
Board. We've had an all-elected board, we've had an appointed board, we've had a hybrid board, and unfortunately, there have been disasters under each form. The last couple of years have been painful, and people were not ready to remove. Right now, the county executive gets to appoint a number, as well as the 5 or so that are elected. We want to retain that for at least 2 more years before we go to the election.
Yeah, and so, Ms. Goodman, you were saying that the number of board members will go down after the appointed members go away?
Correct, by 4.
By 4. So now it's what, how many now on the board?
Let me look.
13?
It's a big board.
It used to be 9 districts, and then we added 4, I think 4 appointed by the county executive. We're
Let's
phasing
see.
that out, we're going to go back to 9 direct. Yeah.
9. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, the bill as amended, Senator.
So your committee or county voted on the amendments?
I know they voted on one. Can't remember if we even took up the one about adding a county council member.
So I'm just saying procedurally, don't you need a county delegation
We have a letter for the other one, the bill as amended, but the committee can make its own amendments on the bill. It doesn't require the delegation to sign off on other amendments that are offered in the
Yeah,
committee.
it wasn't voted down.
That's
The
okay.
county council chair asked for it, a delegate asked for it. I think it's a good amendment.
So Senator Ellis, it goes from a 14-member board to a 10-member board, 9 elected members and 1 student member.
Okay, any person wish to be voted in the opposition? Seeing not, 10-0-1 vote on that bill. Next.
House Bill 467, Education, Teacher Certification, Montessori Schools. This bill allows an individual to be eligible for a certificate to teach students in a public Montessori school if the individual, 1, holds a valid credential from any specified Montessori teacher preparation program, and 2, holds a bachelor degree in any field. The State Board of Education may require an individual to successfully pass an examination to be certified. However, beyond this examination, these teachers may not be required to meet any additional requirements to be certified to teach students in a Montessori school. An individual certified in this manner may not teach students in a non-Montessori public school without meeting all the other requirements required for certification of public school teachers. This committee passed a similar bill 2 years ago from Senator Smith, and it did not move in the House, so.
Yeah,
If you can just give me an update again, Montessori, how's that, what that is?
I'm a little familiar with this. Prince George's County, for example, started a program of public Montessori. Montessori is a European model of teaching where it's learning by doing, and it's very hands-on, with the teacher is really a guide rather than giving direct instruction. They do projects, they do a lot of things. And it's been popular in private schools. The county created a couple of public, and my daughter went for a few years. It's been a little difficult getting Montessori teachers who have to be approved by an international group where there are 2 or 3 agencies. And some haven't gotten their education degree with the normal pedagogy because their approach is very, very different. So this bill is to say if they have a BA degree and have gotten one of these 3 approved credential from American Montessori Society, the International Society, or accredited by the Montessori Council, they can be certified, but they can only teach in a Montessori school. Now, this is only for the public school. Private school, they can do whatever they want. They're not overseen by this anyway.
So this is just another form of public school, like charter and so forth? I mean, is that how you look
No,
at it?
it's not. It's,
Format for teaching.
yeah, I'm trying to think what a parallel would be. It's not a different type of school. It's a different type of instruction.
So my elementary or middle school, they could apply to teach something like this and convert it into a Montessori? I'm just not familiar with it, to be honest with you. Or do you apply to the state board that you
I
want to start a
suppose they
Montessori
could.
school?
I don't know if there are any other counties that have public Montessori. Oh, there are. Oh, yeah. Well, not a lot, there are not a lot of counties that do. Baltimore City and Prince George's have them. The county will decide to open up a Montessori school, and they have to be school employees, and they have to be certified, and they have to, be able to join the local, and they get the same wages and salaries. Like any other teacher in that county, it does not fall under charter or virtual. It is a regular public school. They use a different methodology of instruction.
And I won't,
In Prince George's County, the 2 or 3, you have to apply, and they have a lottery, and you either get in or you don't get in, because they've been very successful, their scores are high, and they have a waiting list.
all right, last question on it. So I live in this one area and there's a Montessori school. Is it like the other ones, I'm in that district, so I go there, or this is a special one you apply to go to?
I can only speak to Prince George's. It is a magnet where you have to apply, and there's a lottery to get in.
So my son, we were founding parents of one, so we in Baltimore City, we did it as a charter, so a charter school. So there's the flexibility there to apply it's very open format. I remember actually my sisters went to one of the first Montessori daycare centers back 50 years ago. So it's a very well-known approach.
Used widely in Europe. It's primarily pre-K, like age 3 or 4. They used to stop at like grade 5 or 6, but now then those kids get put into a structured classroom, and it was like culture shock, because it's not where you sit in a chair and get lectured to. You're moving around. It's a very different kind of atmosphere. Okay, anyway, to the bill. I think there's a motion, it's been moved, it's been seconded, a debate on this basically small carve-out for Montessori teachers in public state-approved schools. Anybody wish to be recorded in the opposition? Seeing none, 10-0-1.
House Bill 512, Professional Standards and Teacher Education Board, Composition and Regulations. This bill alters the composition of the Professional Standards and Teacher Education Board, known as PSTEB, by adding one member of the Maryland Association of Non-Public Special Education Facilities as chosen by the governor from a list of nominees provided by the association, and by reducing from 2 to 1 the number of PSTEB members who are administrative or supervisory staff of the approved non-public schools of the state, chosen by the governor from a list of nominees provided by the Association of Independent Schools. The bill also requires the State Board of Education and PSTEB to develop rules and regulations to attract and provide certification to teachers from groups that are historically underrepresented in the teaching profession. There are no amendments, and there was no opposition at the hearing.
Let me ask you a question. Does the existing Professional Standards and Teacher Education Board support this?
They said it's codifying the current practice.
So the, huh? Yeah, so are the numbers different? They've taken out 25. What is it replaced with?
Well, it's swapping one seat, apparently. The Maryland Association of Non-Public Special Education Facilities was sitting in for a different
A Mansfield.
organization,
Got it.
right?
Okay.
And then it
Got
reduces
it.
from 1 to 2 numbers who are administrative or supervisory staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a motion? Second, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion, debate? Seeing none, anybody wish to be recorded in the negative on this? Seeing none, 10-0-1. So to our interns, this is easy stuff. So far, you haven't seen much controversy. It may come, so depending how long and patient you are. Oh, it's coming. Oh, it's here. Okay, 516.
House Bill 516, St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission, equal treatment. This bill makes various changes to the St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission to include authorizing and adding certain protected classes to include education and gender. There are 2 amendments that have been circulated. One is sponsored by Senator Washington, and the other is sponsored by Senator Pinsky. The amendment sponsored by Senator Washington, trying to figure out the best way to identify it. So that one is a two-pager, and the one sponsored by Senator Pinsky is just 1 page. So the amendment sponsored by Senator Washington adds source of income to the St. Mary's Commission's non-discrimination policy. It removes education discrimination from the list of protected categories. It requires, instead of authorizes, the commission to assist in filing grievances, requires the commission to hold hearings and conduct surveys, and to make recommendations for the betterment of the commission. It removes, in general, the requirement for the commission to resolve tensions. It authorizes the commission to investigate discrimination from governmental entities. And the reprint is included. There is an amendment from Senator Pinsky that would
Did it how I wanted, but I'll explain it if we even get to it. We'll start with, so Senator Washington's, there's a reprint somewhere?
yes.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
So I was attempting to accommodate what I had heard for a couple of the years, that, that they needed to update to current law. And so that is, they did request sexual orientation and gender identity, so that was good. Also, a source of income, we passed 2 years ago, source of income, so I added that. I also amended you cannot take out compliance, because that's actually something that commissions do. And you should know, I've talked to Senator Bailey. I also read the minutes from the St. Mary's County, from their commission, and their commission specifically did ask to have sexual orientation and gender added in. It's in their notes. And also, I just wanted to, get rid of that first, number 1, because, you know, I felt like it didn't really do a lot, and to simply, for me, to add a requirement that they ease racial tensions and all that, so I just got rid of that whole, so it was sort of trying to give them some of what they were specifically asking, that the delegates, and then also give what the commission was specifically asking, and to update them to what other boards are doing. So this should last them for quite a while. So I would move those amendments. And I did speak with Senator Bailey about it and explained what I was trying to do, that I wasn't trying to mess anything up, and that I really wanted to try to help get the bill passed, so.
Question.
Senator,
Thank you, Senator Warren. You mentioned reaching out to Senator Bailey. So he's good with it?
Yeah,
He okay?
I was telling him what I was doing. He's like, I just want to get it passed. And I said, I think we can, if
So-
we do this, I'm happy to
So
get
he's
it passed.
approval,
Yeah,
he
he's
approved of the
good with
amendments.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah, just to be clear, there's no guarantee the House will.
Well, yeah.
We remember that hearing and a little bit of, shall we
Well,
say, surliness.
Yeah, and
Uh,
again, that's where I was trying to address both, you know, what I perceived as an uncomfortability, but also to make the commission do what it is designed to do. And this commission is actually in line with the state commission as well as others frankly do a lot more, but this is sort of the minimum of what a commission should do.
Just to ask a question. Ms. Foxworth, on page 2, the small italicized underline, they were House amendments, underline 4.
So this is actually how it is in current law.
Yeah.
And so instead of the complaint procedures being authorized, they're going to be required to provide the
That's current
assistance
law.
with filing. So that's just integrating what's in
Okay.
current law.
So, so number 1 is being reinstituted
As a shall.
after line 13. Okay.
Right.
On the Washington Amendment, any discussion? Seeing none, I will assume no dissent is adoption, so the Washington amendments are adopted. I'm not going to move my amendment. I've withdrawn. I think this will be interesting.
better.
What happens when we send it back?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
this is cleaner.
Right.
Yep.
On the bill as amended, discussion? Anybody like to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, 902. That's 516. Okay, let's go to 546, another controversial one. I'm being facetious. It is not controversial.
House Bill 546, Pedestrians, Kent Island Drawbridge, Fishing Prohibition. This bill prohibits a pedestrian from catching or attempting to catch fish by any means on or under the Maryland Route 18 Kent Island Drawbridge over the Kent Narrows in Queen Anne's County. A violation is a misdemeanor subject to a maximum fine of $500, which is the standard statutory penalty for violations of the Maryland Vehicle Law.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay, debate, not all at once. Whoa, okay. No fishing on the bridge.
No, I thought you said no fishing under the bridge. Is that,
It's both.
and then you said a vehicle violation. Is this fishing from your vehicle?
No. It's because of where this is drafted, it's in the transportation article, and it's in a section dealing with what pedestrians may and may not do. So because this is a state highway,
Gotcha. Okay, it was just a little confusing.
that's why it's being drafted funny, yeah.
Senator,
Why are we doing this? Is it a safety concern now, or is there a cost that will?
It's a safety concern. The fishing is already prohibited, but this would essentially allow the enforcement to be done at the local level rather than at the state level.
People like to fish, okay.
Yeah, it's the Kent Narrows. There's a lot of
I know
a
what
lot
it is.
of boat traffic, and B, it's pretty heavy currents going through that area, so you're already not allowed to fish
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody wish to be in the negative on 546? We support banning fishing on the drawbridge in Kent Island. Put that on your campaign literature. Okay, yes.
That the same vote be recorded for Senate Bill 981.
That's in rules. It never actually got assigned to the committee.
Never mind. As long as
Okay.
one goes through.
Next, 714.
House Bill 714, Bay Restoration Fund, Intended Use Plans and Privately Owned Wastewater Facilities. This bill establishes new reporting requirements for the Maryland Department of the Environment and the Maryland Department of Planning related to grant funding under the Maryland Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund and funding provided from the Bay Restoration Fund. So this bill is nearly identical to Senate Bill 354, which came through this committee. However, and if you want to look on pages 32 and 33 of the voting packet, the House bill, as it came over, it lacks the floor amendment that was added in the Senate to deal with funds slated for use in a certain Western Maryland project. There's been some back and forth with the Department of the Environment about that language, and they've actually suggested that it should be an uncodified rather than codified language. So Senator Elfreth is offering an amendment, which is that amendment on pages 32 and 33, which adds very similar language based on the Department of the Environment feedback to deal with the issue. It's just a little more precise and is drafted as uncodified language. My understanding is the House will amend the Senate bill to do the same.
Okay, so all parties, again, this was Senator Edwards, was his amendment?
It was Senator Edwards.
Senator Edwards had a floor amendment which we adopted, and no one has a problem with the concept. They just think it should be placed differently. So the amendment being proffered is to put it in uncodified, and the hope is the House will do the same to the Senate bill, and we'll be done with it. So first, on the bill, is there a motion somewhere? Favorable, second. Any objection to the amendment? Seeing none, the amendment's adopted. So the bill, as amended, is before us. Anybody wish to be voted in the negative? Seeing not, 714 will be reported to the floor. Next.
Next is House Bill 749, Natural Resources Maryland Park Explorers Grant Pilot Program Establishment. This bill establishes the Maryland Park Explorers Grant Pilot Program in the Department of Natural Resources to provide Anne Arundel and Baltimore counties with equal funds to establish local park explorers pilot programs. For fiscal years 2024 and through 2026, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation of $100,000 for the pilot programs. The bill establishes related reporting requirements and participating for the department and participating counties as specified.
Yes.
We voted on this in our Anne Arundel County delegation for our side of it. It was passed 4-1, I think. Brian, did you vote for it? I can't hear you.
401.
401. So it passed the delegation this morning.
Okay, that gave us our marching orders. So is there a motion?
Yes.
But it's not a local bill, is it?
2 counties. It came in like 4 or 5, reduced down to 2. So we had a letter of support from the first county, and then Anne Arundel County voted it on it today.
Yeah, it is not entirely necessary to get a local letter on a bill like this, but it does not hurt to know that the counties are
Okay.
in favor of this pilot program.
Is there a motion moved and seconded? Debate?
Can I
Yes.
just ask you explained the bill, but I didn't hear what the grant did. What's the purpose of the grant?
So it's to set up these Park Explorers programs, which the idea behind them is for local parks to sort of put together programs that are aimed at sort of first-time park users to sort of welcome new users into the park system.
And can you, I don't know if you know, but can you give me like a little example? So it would be anybody entering the park, or if you're a first-time person? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know what the
Senator
program-
Washington might know a little more.
Part of my getting to learn Baltimore County a little more. So I had a conversation with the delegate as well. They did find, Baltimore County is a very large county, and it has rural, suburban, and they have some urban centers. And then over COVID, they found there were people who were starting to use the park, and they wanted to just encourage that post-COVID. So apparently, I think Anne Arundel is actually in this bill as well. Kent County got out of it, but apparently the three heads of the parks in those different jurisdictions got together and thought it would be great to start a pilot program that could potentially be used across the state. Kent withdrew, but Anne Arundel and Baltimore County, Calvert withdrew, but Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County are stayed. So it's a very small, and it's to support their efforts to keep people who don't traditionally go to the park to continue to do that.
Meat on this bone. What does the program actually do? I mean, is there a outreach program that you're reaching out to people, or is it when the people come to the park, you give them a tour? Or, I mean, I just don't understand the program yet.
Park Explorers are similar to what the state has, like at Operation Discovery, where you'll have programs with, 10 youth, 15 youth, and they'll do projects, or they'll go on trips, and they'll learn how to do different things in the park.
Bringing them into the park also. It's going into the communities with outreach. Yeah, so it's not just upon entering. They want to increase the number of young people. Yeah, outreach, right. The bill's before you. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Saying not, that'll be recorded 10-01 and sent to the floor. Next, please.
House Bill 836, Public Schools, Student Athletics, Requirements and Emergency Action Plans, Elijah Gorman Act. This is a cross-file bill. If you recall, the bill requires each middle school and high school to develop venue-specific emergency action plans for the operation and use of automated external defibrillators and heat acclimatization as specified. The venue-specific emergency action plan must also include coordination of care for other injuries, including cervical spine, concussion, closed head injury, major yada, yada. So there is a difference between the Senate bill and the House bill. The House bill says a brief walk to get to the AED, and our bill said a 3-minute walk. And the amendment also fixes a technical error in the purpose paragraph. So,
Yeah, I would encourage the committee to adopt the House amendment. I think having a specific minute as to how far to get to the AED is a little too prescriptive. So she's not here. It is what it is. Yeah. I assume the bill is before us. We support the House bill as it comes to us.
right, so I have one, I didn't include it in the packet because it literally is a technical error in the purpose paragraph, and it just strikes that language that doesn't belong.
But the House took care of that, not, or
No,
we
no,
are.
the House bill includes the technical error, the Senate bill does not.
Okay.
But the House bill says brief, and the Senate bill says 3 minutes, so
Okay,
they'll have to make the
we have
change.
to amend it to correct the technical fix. Any objection to the amendment? Okay, so we are taking the House version with a brief walk and with our amendment to take care of the technical fix in the language. The bill as amended. Any discussion? Anybody wish to vote in negative? Seeing not, It'll go 10-01. Can we convey to your counterpart?
Already discussed it.
Okay. Way ahead of the game, because, Paige, we have to coordinate two chambers. And with 3 days left in the session, we want to work in a parallel fashion, so we don't have to go back and forth to conference committees, and then the bill will die because we run out of time. Okay, next.
House Bill 884, State Conservation Land, Old Growth Forest Management. This bill requires the Department of Natural Resources, whenever it identifies an old growth forest on state conservation land, to manage the land in a manner that prohibits logging. There is an amendment in your voting packet on page 39 being offered by Senator Pinsky. The amendment adds natural resource management areas to the list of conservation land covered by the bill. So under the amended version of the bill, the bill would apply to state parks, wildlife management areas, and natural resources management areas.
Okay. 884, I'm sorry. Let's put the bill before us first. It's been moved, seconded. Senator.
Yeah, in these forest management plans, I think sometimes they call for removing some trees, as we look at, the value of a land, sometimes, logging is every 20 years in certain areas. I'm not sure we want to put in statute that we're going to just eliminate that because it's on state ground. Just my thoughts on that, just a little concern. I mean, that is income, as you look at agriculture, and trees can be a crop too. It's not, so.
It's open for discussion. It's before us. Senator Washington.
So I have a question. So if land is a state conservation, what does that mean then? If something's considered, if it's on state conservation land? Do we at times, does the state at times permit logging on land that's considered state conservation land?
Yes.
And so the purpose of this is to limit that. But only limit it in old growth, right? Okay. So. And is the state losing its old growth forest? That's probably a rhetorical question, but we are losing it. So is that the purpose of I didn't get a chance to talk with the bill's sponsor about why we're doing the bill. Does anybody?
I mean, I think that's the concern. I don't know.
Right, okay.
I don't know off the top
Got
of my
it,
head.
got it, no problem.
Senator Hester.
This wouldn't prohibit logging of old growth forests on privately held land.
No.
So if it's a private person, they can do it. So this is just the state. Okay, great, thank you.
And just so we're clear, state conservation lands mean state parks and wildlife management areas. Senator Hester, followed by Senator Carrozza.
I feel like I'm trying to remember, because I had asked a question during a hearing about allowable uses and whether, cutting or thinning for fire management practices. Was that on this bill? Different bill?
Full natural areas bill, we haven't gotten to that one yet.
Do they address the same part of the code? I mean, because if we pass one and we pass the other, then it's kind of good to look at them, what they do combined, no?
They're not in the same, they're in the same article, but they're not in the same part of the code, and they're not necessarily, they're not in conflict. It would be two different kind of programs. This bill is specific to old growth forest, as defined essentially in, the definition that appears in the bill is the same definition that is currently used in DNR regulations. But this would just be old growth forest on, as the bill came over from the House, state parks and wildlife management areas. The Senator Pinsky has offered an amendment to add in natural resources management areas.
And are those natural resource management areas ever leased?
Yes.
Okay.
According to testimony, and I'll go to Senator Crows in a moment, there are 350 acres under the first two categories and another 62 under natural resource management areas that fit the criteria of old growth. So we're not talking tens of thousands of acres. We're talking 412, according to one of the testimonies. I can't vouch for it, but that's what they. Old Growth Forest Network. I don't know if anybody else comes up with any other numbers. Senator Carrozza, to you.
So I recall from the hearing, and maybe Ms. Morton can refresh the information. There was originally testimony from the Maryland Farm Bureau and the Maryland Forest Association back at the end of February in opposition to this bill. And was that due to, at that point, before the private lands was amended out? And do we know if their opposition has been lifted with that being amended out?
So there was no written or oral opposition to the bill as it came over from the House. So my understanding is that, yes, a lot of those concerns were addressed through the original House amendments, which again, the original bill had covered state wildlands, land subject to conservation easements, land within a rural legacy area, land held by the Maryland Environmental Trust, and land funded under program open space, which would have been a lot of county lands. I don't know with the proposed amendment to add natural resources management areas back in, how that would affect that, but there is the only opposition that we received on the version of the bill that came over from the House, there were 3 people who signed up, but they signed up on everything that day in opposition, and they didn't actually submit any written testimony.
So the answer is none of those groups you mentioned submitted written testimony against.
But now we have a new amendment that would include
Yeah, 62 acres is my understanding. It's one forest. So in other words, if you look on the bill on page 2 and 3, the House struck out 7 other categories. This puts one in natural resource management area, which is one forest of 62 acres. Okay, first of all, let's move the bill in front of us, have it in front of us to work on. It's been moved, been seconded. I would proffer the amendment, which adds 62 acres. Any objection to the amendment? Okay, well, let's take a vote on putting back in, my amendment puts back in natural resource management, 62 acres. Those in favor of adding that back in signify by raising your hand. The 62 acres, the amendment in the packet.
I'm waiting on one.
Yeah,
So the 62 acres,
I think it's Y Island, I think.
I mean, it seems like a small amount, but then the definition seems really broad,
So in that definition, it's not really broad. That is the definition that the department currently uses for old growth forest. It's, and as the chair said, they have already done like an analysis of where these forests exist in the state. There aren't many of them.
and just, is the amendment offered by the chair, is that in this packet?
Yes, so that is on page 39 of the voting packet.
I mean, so you're telling, what is the legal definition of natural resources management areas? I mean, it just seems really, really broad.
So that is, I mean, it's a designation made by the department. Look up.
Drew, is this an area you're familiar with from your past work?
I'm actually representing Jeff Horstman on this issue.
Come up to the mic, please, and tell us who you are.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Drew Schmidt-Perkins, representing Jeff Horstman, was one of the people who are testifying favorably for this bill. And what this bill is simply doing is codifying what people thought all along was happening, that old growth forests were being protected. And apparently in all the crazy number of different types of management areas and stuff, this kind of land was being left out. And so this is a corrective bill to make sure that these few hundred acres are actually being protected from being logged.
Of natural resource management area?
That was taken out inadvertently by the House in an overly aggressive amendment. So they just want it back in, but everybody agreed that that should be part of it in the House.
Anything to add or not?
And that amendment, I believe, was offered by the sponsor and agreed to by the two people who testified.
I think the 412 acres comes to 1/10 of 1% of all state-owned land, so it's not a major. Please.
I understand that, but sometimes with these things, you kind of open the door, and then once that door gets open, then somebody comes back next year and maybe does try to do it on ground that's ag preserve farmland, which would be a huge thing. And honestly, if we start down that path, when you look at ag preservation, one of the selling points of getting some of these farmers to get in these programs is knowing that they can still make money off of every 20 years or so logging some of that property. So I just think this is a bad path to start down, and that's why I'll be opposing the bill. Thank you.
Amendment. Any further discussion? Senator Hester, your light's off. Senator Patterson on the amendment. To
Yes.
put back in natural resource management.
Just a
which we-
comment I would say to the Senator across the hall. It's a little late now to start thinking about going down that path, don't you think? I mean, we've done quite a bit of that throughout the last 2 or 3 years. I think the fishing industry was one, the hunting was one, and and it just keep coming back. So
on this specific issue with logging, I think this is the first time we've had that I remember in the 4 years I've been here, that we've had a bill that would restrict any of that. So I see this as a start, and that's why, I'm opposition for it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
To add in natural resource management, who objects to the amendment? I see one. Anybody else? 2, 3, 4. Let's take a vote. Roll call. On adopting the amendment, adding 62 acres to be, old growth to be protected.
Senator Lamb?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, Senator.
Yes.
Senator Lamb, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, sorry. Senator Hester?
I have questions on the overall bill.
Senator Ellis?
Yes.
Senator Ellis, yes, I'm sorry. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson?
Yes.
Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Salmonere?
This is the Penske
Senator Penske? hold on.
Yes, Senator.
Through some of the testimony, and so DNR had written in and basically says that, 884 prohibits logging in old growth areas, blah, blah, blah. But that some treatments cannot be accomplished without the harvest of diseased trees. And so I love old growth trees. I'm just wondering if this specific comment, because when you have an infestation, I guess I'm concerned about the breadth of the bill. So if you have an infestation or you've got danger of forest fire, you should be able to log or trim or whatever you have to do. Thin, thank you, thin, that's the word I'm looking for. So can anybody tell me if this concern was addressed or the fire concern? I know we're really late in session, but I wouldn't mind just having a night to read this bill in comparison to the other bill and just get a hold on what we're doing here. Thank you so much.
House Bill 1059 by county commission.
That was a hold on, huh? Right.
House Bill 1059 by county commissions, ethics, certification of compliance. This bill requires each bi-county commission to annually certify with the State Ethics Commission that it is in compliance with specified requirements of the Maryland Public Ethics Law relating to the regulation of conflicts of interest of employees, financial disclosure by employees, lobbying of the bi-county commission. The bill also specifies that a bi-county commission may modify its lobbying regulations to the extent necessary to make the regulations relevant to the bi-county commission. And it says that there is amendments. Hold on, sorry. I must have forgotten to take a look. 1059. And I believe these were provided by the delegation, and they're not there. Hold on. There is amendments. Can we skip this one and come back to it, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
House Bill 1265, Barbers and Cosmetologists Licensure Requirements, Review and Regulations. This bill requires by December 1st of 2023, the State Board of Barbers and the State Board of Cosmetologists to review licensure requirements to identify where there is duplication for those individuals seeking licenses to practice both barbering and cosmetology. They are also required to adopt regulations to facilitate licensing for both professions. I don't recall seeing anything from the respective boards. So no, nothing from the Department of Labor.
It basically calls for them to review the training requirements. Do we want to move though or not? We could probably write a letter, but, no. I was just, as an aside, saying we could probably write a letter to the department to ask them to do this, but there's a bill in front of us to do the same thing. Whatever the pleasure of the committee is. Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Oh, not too much enthusiasm, folks. Slow it down. Back it up. Right. Okay. Seeing no discussion, it takes 6 votes to get it out of committee. It is before us. Look, we pass a lot of bills, some have meaning and push the envelope, some don't. When we decide what does and what doesn't, you know, I'm not going to decide for the committee. Okay. Bill's not moving, but we'll be happy to share that. We'll write a letter on their behalf.
My records were wrong.
10:59.
There is in fact no amendment to that bill. So both Montgomery County and Prince George's County sent local letters approving the bill as it is.
Okay, second, discussion, letters from both jurisdictions who say it's fine. Any objection? Seeing none, 902 on 1059. Next.
Okay, House Bill 1300, Beach Erosion Control District, State and City-Owned Structures. This bill exempts the repair, renovation, reconstruction, or limited expansion of specified structures in the Beach Erosion Control District from a prohibition against land clearing, construction activity, or other construction or placement of permanent structures subject to certain requirements and limitations. This bill is substantively identical to Senate Bill 64 as it passed unanimously. That was Senator Carrozza's bill. However, there is an amendment in your voting packet on page 43. The amendment just strikes obsolete language exempting a certain boardwalk widening project from the beach erosion control district restrictions. Again, my understanding is that the House is going to amend that provision out of the Senate bill as well.
Okay. The amendment, the motion to adopt the amendment, any objection to the amendment? Seeing none, then the amendment's adopted, the bill's amended before us, beach erosion and the Ocean City Boardwalk. Any objection? You have to be objecting to mom and apple pie, I think, on this one. Seeing no objection, bill passes as amended to the floor. That's HB 1300. Next.
House Bill 1380, General Provisions, LGBTQ Veterans Honorable Discharge, Restoration of Honor Act. This bill for state programs and state military benefits defines honorable discharge to include a veteran's discharge that is deemed less than honorable due to that individual's sexual orientation or due to a statement made by the individual about their sexual orientation that violated military policy. Requires the Department of Veterans Affairs to adopt regulations by May 1st of next year to determine whether an individual fits within this category.
1380 is before us. Discussion, motions. It's moved, it's been seconded. There are no amendments, is that correct? Discussion on 1380. Seeing none, will anybody like to be recorded in the negative? Seeing no hands, that'll go 10-01 to the House, Senate floor. Okay, we're down to 2 more on this list. Ms. Foxworth, I think you're up again.
House Bill 1451, Housing and Community Development Business Projects and the Business Development Program Financial Assistance. This bill authorizes the Department of Housing and Community Development to provide financial assistance for business projects in the form of loans and convertible promissory notes. Expands the form of financial assistance the department can provide under the Business Works Program to include promissory convertible notes. Authorizes the department to sell equity received under these convertible notes without prior Board of Public Works approval. The equity received from these convertible notes will go into the Neighborhood Business Development Program Fund, and the portions of the bill that authorize the provision of a convertible note will sunset in 2026.
Anybody an expert on convertible notes? We're a big high finance, I'm sure, with all of our stock investments. We must have some expertise in convertible notes. Okay, that's a great answer. Second, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. I think it creates more flexibility.
Convertible notes.
I'm not sure there's anybody here who can answer. Maybe some of the pages.
Okay, well, it's, yeah. So generally, is this similar to like capital borrowing from, say, Wall Street, the bonds? Talking about notes and convertible. I know what convertible notes are. You can change it from one form to another. But, okay, I'll withdraw my question.
That may be converted to an equity ownership interest and liquidated at the earliest possible opportunity to get high market value.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
Or high financiers on the committee. Okay. With trust in the process, anybody object to?
I mean, could we, this might be something really big, and I think for us to vote on it, I'm sorry? Huge, yeah, with the hand, huge. So could we get kind of like, hold on, I can do some research on this tomorrow, yeah. Thanks.
43. That was a crossfire that was heard today, handled on the floor by good Senator Washington, about drugs. Nurse, anesthetist, which we talked about whether they have the authority to prescribe drugs for 10 days on their patients. Speaking of patients. Okay, we're going to go to list number 49. We did the first one.
Oh, no, we haven't.
Senate Bill
1006 was passed today. That's done. 131 is being held. So that takes to 192, Ms. Goodman.
Okay, hold on. Finding my stuff. So many piles. Okay. 146.
92.
192. Okay. House Bill 192.
List number 49.
Yep.
Third bill down, 192.
House Bill 192, Baltimore County Board of Education, Student Member Voting and Training. This bill authorizes the student member of the Baltimore County Board of Education to vote on matters relating to capital and operating budgets. The bill also requires the student member to complete specified budget training within 2 months of the student member's election in order to be eligible to vote on budgetary matters. The training must be developed by a work group consisting of board members and the executive leadership of the Baltimore County Public School System. A draft curriculum for the budget training must be submitted to the county board for review by December 31st, 2022. The training must focus on the operating and capital budget process of the county board and be facilitated by representatives of the school system's Division of Fiscal Services. No amendments. We have a local letter.
Isn't there?
No? Is there?
The letter says, has voted in favor of amendment HB. The discussion, is this the House amendment or the Senate amendment?
Oh, boy.
So there was an amendment to the House bill.
Right, right. I mean, so, right, the House amended it. They may have, the letters get very confused with staff, I hate to say, but
Okay.
they do. And they write in there things that aren't, so they
Okay.
approved it as amended by the
Correct,
committee.
okay.
so.
And I think, small world being as it is, I think the Baltimore County Student Board member is with us today. So, this is legislation. Yeah, right, right. It'll be on his campaign literature if you vote no. I'm sorry, yes.
I'm a big proponent of local courtesy, so personally, I might not be in favor of this policy, but, you know, local courtesy is important. Hopefully, you know, the Harford County bill will get on too, that local courtesy bill at some point. But my question is, as we talk about local courtesy, is this setting precedence? Because we've said in the past, well, if it sets precedence, then really the local courtesy kind of goes away and we discuss the meat and potatoes of the bill. So how many other jurisdictions already allow under, you know, a student to actually vote on like the budget and stuff like that? Two, which two?
Oh, God.
He's ready.
Oh, my gosh.
And normally you want the coat on when you come up to the but you're still learning, don't worry.
Yes, good evening, Senators. My name is Christian Thomas, and I'm the current student member of the Board for Baltimore County Public Schools. Currently, the Montgomery County student member of the board and the Anne Arundel County Public School student member of the board have voting rights on the capital and operating budget. In Anne Arundel County, this has been in place for around 40 years, and in Montgomery County, it's been in place for about 7 years.
Thank you for that answer, and since this is not breaking new ground, and I'm a big believer in local courtesy, as I just mentioned, I'll be supportive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and you're not going to like my answer. Senator, 40 years ago, it was decided that a 17-year-old child can vote on disciplinary action for principals, assistant principals, and teachers. 40 years ago, a 17-year-old child was given the authority to vote on operating and capital budgets. There are no restrictions on what this young adult can vote on as a school board member. My second year as a senator, I put in a bill to restrict the voting rights. I have to tell you that I'm very glad we have a very smart young people on our school boards to articulate their views and their values. But they haven't opened a checking account, they don't have a credit card, they've never made a mortgage payment, they probably don't have a car payment, they haven't paid back their tuition on their education. You know, I love these young people, I want them engaged, but I'm not quite sure that I want them making true adult decisions. And let me give you an example. 30 years ago, there was a choice between expanding a high school in Anne Arundel County or building a new one in Crofton, where there was an obvious need because we had split sessions for our high school and we were dividing neighborhoods into two different schools. The student member of the school board voted for the expansion. It was his high school. Now, I'm sure that the adults were also parochial and taking care of their neighborhoods, but it just has always grinded me the wrong way that we gave such a powerful decision-making tool to someone who doesn't have and I'm going to use the term world experience. When we come to these hearings and we do the budgets, you know, we come with our professional experience, our educational experience, our family experience, our community experience. Love these young students. I don't think that they are deserving of this additional responsibility. I will be voting for the bill for the same reason you are. If this county wants to have a 17-year-old making fiscal decisions, they're going to have to live with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a question to my colleague. So some of the standards you mentioned for these 17-year-old, and you use the term child and young adults. I prefer young adults. But anyway, but these 17, you talked about paying a mortgage, credit card, car notes. So if we apply those same standards to adults, could we say we'll keep them off the school board? Because I know a lot of adults who don't have a mortgage. I know a lot of adults don't have a credit card. And I see a lot of adults taking the bus, and so they don't have a car. So, yeah, I mean, well, for whatever. If those are the standards for someone to hold office, if we apply those same standards to folks over 17. Would that be okay?
18 or over?
Okay. Maybe let's make a rhetorical question.
Isn't that so?
Isn't that so?
Yeah, I would say, Senator, this recalls your question about 45 minutes ago at Prince George's Board of Education. And those same standards were probably not met by 4 of the members of the school board. And a lot of people feel that's one of the reasons we're having problems on the local Board of Education who have not paid off debt. Some has to do with youth, not taking a broader view and life experience, and we've had a lot of problems and tension. So it's interesting you raise that. Isn't that so? Okay, thank you. On the bill from Baltimore County, they want to vote and train their young student members. Anybody like to, I'm sorry, Senator Washington on this bill?
Well, I actually think this is very good because it's requiring a training, it's requiring them to actually engage and to learn more. And then also on the matter of 17-year-olds, they can enlist in the Army, so you can die at the age of, you can enlist in the Army. There are a number of things that they can do. Also, thus far, every single student member that I've seen testify before us seem to have a handle of the material and an ability to engage and communicate in ways that I actually believe exceeds some of our own. So this is like a way to, grow that experience. And on the matter of the budget, the fact that they are the most impacted person, they have the most ability to understand what the dollars mean, when they're into play. So in Baltimore, we are going to allow them to to work on the budget, but we have excluded from hiring and firing and professors, so they can vote on the budget, but they're not allowed to deal with personnel matters. So that's how we've cut that. So again, I'm supporting the bill, so that was in support of the bill. Thanks.
The senator from Crofton.
Crofton High School, thank you very much. And Senator, the other issue is red states, blue states. 1,800 school boards in the United States. How many have a full voting member? Anne Arundel County. I think that also speaks to the depth and breadth of this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And also the vision of Anne Arundel County, possibly. Who knows? That was facetious. Let's not spend a lot more time on this bill. We did vote it, or we didn't? Okay. Any who would like to be recorded in the negative on this Baltimore County school board bill? That'll be recorded as a 10-0-1 vote.
Let me find the list for that one. No, it's right. I'm just, here it is. Okay. The House Bill 246, Open Meetings Act, notices, closed session and minutes, retention periods, online posting, and public inspection. So this bill increases the time a public body is required to keep a copy of a notice to close a meeting and a written statement indicating the reason for closing the meeting from 1 year to 3 years. Requires a public body to post a written statement online only if it is practicable. If the public body does not post the written statement, the minutes, or the recordings online, the public body has to make the items available within 5 days upon request. If the minutes have not been approved when requested, the body has to make the minutes available within 5 business days after approval. There are no amendments to the bill. The question.
I know that there's been conversations with MML and Senator Kagan, who is out, And if this bill were to move forward, MML had asked Senator Kagan to offer an amendment, which I would be willing to offer if the committee is going to move the bill. So I just wanted to share that information ahead of time.
If there's no objection to the bill, I mean, we can hear your amendment, Senator.
Okay, so under the current PIA guidelines, this would cover, for instance, a small-town clerk who would be out sick for several days. So under this bill, that town could be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So MML has requested that the provisions be amended in accordance with the Public Information Act, where we would be striking on page 1, line 2, you would strike notices, closed sessions, and minutes, and you would replace it with notices and closed sessions. And then in lines 2 and 3, you would strike retention periods, online posting, and public inspection, and substitute retention periods and online posting. I did just get a copy of this amendment, and then furthermore on page 5, you would strike in entirety lines, in line 1, strike the one italic, and strike in the entirety lines 4 through 7.
Senator, so we have in front of us, why don't we hold this till
Okay.
if you don't mind?
Sure.
Share that with the committee council. We can replicate it for our voting session tomorrow. Okay, that was 246. 331 we've already done, I believe.
Yes.
So that takes to 359.
Another local bill.
House Bill 359, Prince George's County, alcoholic beverages, transfer of Class A beer, wine, and liquor licenses. This bill authorizes the Prince George's County Board of License Commissioners to approve the transfer of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license to a premises located in a specified area if there is no Class A beer, wine, and liquor license operating within 1 mile of the premises. There are amendments. Those are on page 16 of the voting packet from the Prince George's County Senators. The amendments restrict the bill's application to the 23rd, 25th, 26th, and 27th alcoholic beverages districts.
Okay, so that's in the affirmative, not the negative, right?
Correct. So those are the districts to which the bill would apply, allowing those license transfers.
Okay. On this local alcohol bill, it's moved by Senator Patterson, I think. I'll move it, I don't care. Seconded by Lamb. You want to add to the amendment? You're on the way out, but you can do whatever you want.
What do you say?
You're a senator, Senator.
Oh, could I make a comment then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want to add amendment
Okay.
26.
I
Oh, it is.
No, those are the ones that can have
They
it.
can.
Yeah. Mm.
If you want to
My overall concern here, and I know it's probably late to even think about doing this at this point, but at some point, I want to see some ownership in terms of liquor stores in my district. We have roughly in the county 250 to 275. My county is 80% black and brown. We have 3 individuals that own liquor license. So, I mean, to keep doing the same old thing and not opening up that system, it just caused me a lot of pause.
Okay.
Question for the
Yeah.
Senator, are you saying that most of the liquor licenses are owned by corporations? You have more than 3 liquor licenses in National Harbor.
But I said of people of color.
Oh,
Only 3.
I have to listen better.
Yes, you do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Off-sale package stores.
Yeah, right.
And look, the genesis for this bill is there are a few districts where we limited the number of package stores many years ago, and they couldn't increase over a certain number. And first one district did it, my own, and then Senator Miller did it, and then Senator Benson. So we said if there are 30 in your district, we couldn't have 31 or 32. There are some areas that have sparse areas, and others are so compact, they have a lot of them. And they want to be able to shift them across borders from where there's high intensity of liquor stores to where there's low intensity. This bill says they can be shifted across borders if there's no other liquor store within 1 mile. I have more than enough in my district, so I said exclude me from the bill, as have 4 of the 8 senators. So that's what this bill's about. And Senator, in terms of whatever you want to do with 26, I don't think we have to take it back to committee. We can do whatever we want to do. If you want to stay in or stay out, your call. Thank you, Pages.
This is a tough decision because on the other side, you know,
Well, you can do it from the floor if you want to think about it, too.
we can do what? Hold it?
No,
Oh.
we'll move the bill. You can always do an amendment on the floor if you don't want to take it out now.
Or can I amend it? Oh, it's
You
already
can do
in.
you can do whatever you want to do, Senator. You are the man of the day.
Oh, whoa.
No, seriously. I
Okay.
mean, if you think there are some situations where there are a lack of liquor stores and you want to be able to have one from another district, you can stay in. If you want to take your district out, you can do that.
I think I'm gonna go with taking it out.
Okay. So this is an amendment to this amendment. Anybody object to removing 26? Seeing no objection. So the remaining 3 districts, 23, 25, and 27, and again, they make sense because they are mostly outside of the Beltway, where there is more space and more wide open area and more development. Most of the ones inside the Beltway that have more close quarters, more urban, more poverty, have wanted out. Any objection to the amendment as it's now stipulated? Yeah.
So there's this provision for a 1 mile radius, but does it take into account the caps that you have? So say you say you can only have 30 in your area. This would allow them to go to 31 and 32 or
Correct.
33 as long as.
Correct.
And, okay.
Okay, any objection to the amendment as amended? Seeing not, I'm sorry, Senator.
Just on the bill.
Okay, then the amended amendment is adopted, the bill as amended.
Okay, thank you. So the transfer of these licenses, is it just a license or the license are held by someone and the license and that company, that individual will go to the new district? Or is it a license by itself that's open for a new applicant?
I think you can either move into another district if you fulfill that requirement where it's a sparse area and there are no other liquor stores. I think you can either move there or you can sell it to a new licensee if they fulfill these obligations.
Yeah, so, okay, good, thank you for that. So, in response to Senator Patterson's point about lack of diverse ownership, something we do here a lot is talking about, you do this, and in regards to, in respect of the diversity of the area, of the state. I mean, couldn't you do something like that?
Yeah? Well, that's what I was hoping and looking for, to even get some type of commitment or letter, or this is going to be a top-notch line initiative to look at it, but just to be in a county and have that profile. And, you know, I don't know why we have all these committees where we talk about diversity and all that kind of stuff.
So my
It's-
question is, could you, I mean, this is a
If
local
you
bill,
could give me
so,
another day, I'd like to explore that.
In there, because this is a licensing issue, in general, licenses have to be race neutral unless, and that's your bill and the cross-file, which I think are moving, that minority participation in the alcoholic beverages industry study. That is a disparity study which would have to occur before there could be any sort of diversity requirements or language related to alcoholic beverages licenses. So constitutionally, you cannot have sort of diversity license or language around who is eligible or who can get a license without doing that diversity study or that disparity study first.
and so we have no disparity studies on record around this issue yet.
Right, and that's what Senator Patterson's bill, which has passed through the
Mr.
Senate, and I
Boyd.
think we've passed the cross-file, so.
But
That is
that's more
forthcoming.
procurement.
Well, so something like that, once you have that disparity study, you can use it for different purposes, but in general, because, so to use an example, in the medical cannabis field, that was used for licensing purposes, not for procurement purposes. So a disparity study can be used for multiple different purposes. What it does is it looks at the industry as a whole, who is currently participating in the industry, and then on the basis of that, the state can take various actions to increase proactively the diversity of a particular industry, whether that be through procurement regulations or whether that be through licensing initiatives.
So,
Well, thank you
No, you-
for that.
okay. So you're saying that you gotta have evidence that you got those people in the pool out there? And that's why you gotta have a disparity study at that point? And are you basing this on a similar case like the one they had in Richmond a long time ago? No, I said, no,
Well, I'm not
familiar with that,
Yeah,
okay.
but in general, before the state can sort of take proactive sort of steps on diversity, there has to be, disparity studies provide that basis. It's, what is somebody's got to remind me of the.
Compelling interest?
Compelling interest, yes, that the state has to show a compelling interest in order to sort of take race into account when it takes any sort of action. And so you have to have that, the disparity study provides that evidence of the need for state intervention on that point.
I believe you, but it seemed, it seemed a little bit, you, with 3 out of 270, I mean, how much more evidence you need?
Senator, it absolutely might be a valid issue. I think this is to reduce the number of liquor stores in particularly urban populations where they're inundated among working and poor people.
Right.
And I know Senator Augustine says, there's one on like every block, and off-site liquor is okay, but it's also a place in poor neighborhoods where people come to get a pint, whatever. And I think he wants to remove the intensity of those liquor stores in his district and say, if in Upper Marlboro they're building a new development and they wanted a liquor store, go for it. So I know there's a relationship. Anyway.
Could we put something like a contingency so that they have to do something if they wanted to come back? If you take them out and say in the next 10 years, you sense the need to open it up again, You have to go back and put on another total bill? How can we do that? Do you quite understand the question? Maybe not. No. I'm saying if I decide to stick with taking 26th district out, and 6 months or a year down the road, we've taken care, say, the results of the disparity study, just for the conversation. How could they petition the Board of License to come back or something?
I mean, as I understand, and this is not my specialty, Senator Seminary knows a hell of a lot more than I do. If someone wants to sell their license
Right,
and get it, they want to retire,
right.
but there are only a certain amount of licenses, they can sell it and they'll probably sell it to the highest bidder. That's number one.
But then that
Hold-
become a racket.
And the other question is adding licenses, which any year somebody can come in and say, I want 5 additional licenses for my district. So there are other ways to open up potential, and then that does get to the next level. Let's say you go back, or the next, whoever follows you says, we want 5 more licenses for off-site sales. And then if you want to get to the language of, you think 2 of those should be set aside, then you can get to that based on disparity. So
I guess, Mr. Chief, I can see where 2 or 3 people could own all the liquor stores, too.
2 or 3 people could what?
Could own all the liquor stores if,
No, you're limited, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know off the top of my head what the law is for Prince George's County, but most
we just moved the
jurisdictions.
cap.
Yeah, most jurisdictions have a pretty tight cap on the number of liquor stores you can even have an interest, any sort of ownership
I
interest
think it's
in.
1 or 2, I believe.
Yeah, Montgomery County don't. They got an open cap, I believe, on theirs, so.
It might be, I don't know.
Okay, I guess we dealt with this long enough. I mean,
Okay, the bill as amended, this is 359, Prince George's County, transfer of Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. Anybody want to vote in the opposition? Saying not, 10:01. Next, please.
House Bill 476, Baltimore County Board of Education, Appointments and Terms and Election of Officers. This bill requires that in 2023, the governor appoint 4 members to the Baltimore County Board of Education on a day that is after the date of the gubernatorial inauguration and before February 1st that same year. Members appointed by the governor must begin their term on their date of appointment. The terms of members are staggered as required by the terms provided for the members of the board on June 1, 2022. The bill specifies that in 2023, the county board must elect a chair and vice chair from among the members at the first meeting of the county board after the new term of the members has begun. The terms of the appointed members of the board, who are appointed in 2023, must expire at the end of December 1, 2024. As a result, new appointed members will be appointed in presidential election years. I think there's a lot of concern because the Constitution prohibits the governor from appointing certain individuals at the end of the term, and this is ostensibly to correct that or address that concern. There is one amendment in your packet on page 17, and this is from the Baltimore County delegation. This amendment would alter the number of members of the county board with only 1 member appointed by the county executive of Baltimore County, and it alters the provisions of the Baltimore County School Board Nominating Commission to make the provisions consistent for the appointment of a member by the county executive. We have a local letter.
I mean, yes, favorable with amendments, okay. Motion in favor, second, no objection to the amendment. Is that a House amendment or Senate amendment? It's a House amendment. Okay, well, we don't, okay, then it's been moved and seconded. Any objection to adopting 476, seeing none, 1001. Next. 516, I don't think we have to do it a second time. Okay, 653.
House Bill 653, Conservation Finance Act. We are secondary on this bill. It's coming to us from Budget and Tax. This is the identical cross-file of Senate Bill 348 as enrolled. The bill makes changes to a broad variety of existing programs related to environmental conservation and natural resources management and expands opportunities for agencies to obtain private investment and financing for state environmental projects, including conservation efforts, restoration projects, and the installation and repair of blue and green infrastructure. So the House bill differs from the Senate bill as it originally passed the Senate in only one respect. It includes amendments added in the House that require the Maryland Environmental Services to review and evaluate the results of pay-for-success contracts and report those results to this committee, Budget and Tax, the Environment and Transportation Committee, and Appropriations. Again, the Senate bill has already passed with these amendments, has been enrolled, so we're looking to do a favorable.
Okay, is there a motion? It's moved. Is there a second? Further discussion? Seeing none, anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? 10-01.
House Bill 667, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages, Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor Licenses Restaurants. This bill repeals the requirement that a restaurant applying for a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license in Harford County must have been in full-time operation for at least 6 months immediately prior to filing the application as specified. We did get a local delegation letter on this bill.
So this is one, if everybody remembers, there was an issue, the local liquor board, I believe, opposed it, and then we got a letter from the delegate who sponsored it with like an attorney general's letter. So there's been some back and forth on this. As mentioned, the Hartford Senators did agree to side on, but since that letter, we've discussed an amendment to change the date of implementation. I'm assuming you need a letter on that as well, right? Okay, so can we hold, well, I just need to get the letter. Yes.
Heard that when it's in our possession, we can amend it anyway, just like we did the 26.
Wants to make the amendment. I would assume that if they want to make that amendment, we should get a letter specifying that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a fine line, because you got a senator right here who could make that if he wanted. Okay.
667 then will be on hold till hopefully tomorrow. 862.
All right. This is House Bill 862, Election Law, Ballot Canvassing, Multiple Ballots Cast by an Individual. This bill alters procedures for canvassing absentee and provisional ballots when a local board of election receives more than one ballot in separate envelopes from the same individual. So what's happening with this bill is that, if you recall, many moons ago, we passed Senate Bill 163 from Senator Kagan on processing and reporting procedures. The goal here is to conform, even though they're not cross files, is to make these two bills match. So the House and the Senate have come to an agreement on this being the vehicle. We will take the language in Delegate Feldmark's bill regarding the ballots here, the receipt of ballots, and then they will put on the rest of Senator Kagan's bill. And then they agreed that the local boards may actually tabulate the absentee ballots just during this election, and then going forward, they cannot tabulate until after the polls close on Election Day.
Are we including all of the key elements of the curing bill?
Yes.
So it's also 8 days. Did you mention that?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
The 8 days to correct.
Yes, that is in there.
Did you mention that?
Oh, I'm sorry, but Yes, that was in Senator Kagan's bill. They didn't make any changes to that provision, but yes. So they will allow to begin processing absentee ballots 8 days before early voting, meaning that they can promptly after receipt, they can review the ballot envelope for the omission of the voter's signature. They can accept, reject, open, or process. During this election, they can also tabulate, but starting this election only.
Ladies and gentlemen, last year we had a bill about curing. That means the election officials would start looking at the ballots that were mailed in. And if somebody didn't sign the authorization, they can contact them and say, do you know that we can't count it without the authorization? The House didn't pass the bill. We sent over a version of this like 2 months ago, and they've been sitting on it. So the agreement, even though it's not the Vice Chair's bill, is to add the things that the House and Senate have agreed to onto this bill. We pass it, and they would just concur, correct?
Right, but they're also amending Senator Kagan's bill to include this provisions too.
There was not a crossfile to Senator Kagan's bill?
No,
So
there
this
was
is
not.
becoming the crossfile,
Yes,
for all intents and purposes?
for all intents and purposes.
Okay, so the package will be deciding when multiple ballots are cast, which was how this bill came in, the 8-day curing, and using language of tabulating for the next election, and after that, the language will go
No,
to,
this election, not the next election, yeah.
but subsequently, what,
So subsequently going forward, they can begin processing the absentee ballots, but up to the point at which they would actually count them, they can't do that. They can't press the button until Election Day.
okay. Senator?
So that was my question, and I don't know if you know the answer. Why are we distinguishing between this election and going forward?
The answer to that is that during the emergency provisions of the last election, they did as they said, they did the whole life cycle of the ballot during the absentee process. They approved the early processing and they did tabulation, and it seemed to work fine. But the House has said that they do not want that going forward. So the agreement was they could do it this time because they were familiar with those procedures, but going forward, there would be no tabulation.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is if it's a bad policy, why do we want to enact it one more time if there's concerns about it? So it just seemed, I don't know why we're doing it. Just say this election will continue one more time, but we don't think it's a great policy, so we're going to stop going in the future.
Let me speak to it, and I'm sure the Vice Chair would if she wasn't sick and she was here. I think the local boards want to be able to tabulate, not make it public, because the onslaught of ballots takes a lot of time. And they want to be able to announce the results sometime on election night. So last time they collected it and then they put it under super security and it didn't get out anywhere. And then at the end of election night, they obviously processed and tabulated the things that were voted on election day. And then they took out all the tabulated, whatever it is, on a thumb drive or on paper from the multiple mailed-in ballots, and they were able to announce a winner by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. So I think it's a good policy. They weren't convinced. So to move this bill in the curing, they said, we'll give it to you this time, but we don't agree with it next time. We can come back on this issue. But because we wanted to allow curing to get as many people to vote as possible, it's sort of a compromise. It's a temporary compromise.
Okay, another question. If
Is
I
that
can.
fair? Yeah.
So let me ask a question to set up my other question. The curing allows up to 8 days after Election Day?
No, this is, the 8 days refers to the 8 days prior to early voting that they can begin processing, meaning reviewing, opening, running to the machine, those kind of things. That's what they can do with the absentee ballots. They just can't push the button that says, tallying up the votes.
Right, you have early voting, and I guess you have people sending in ballots, and they may have signed them or not. When does curing stop?
Curing never stops. I mean, they get it. They have up until 10 days after the election is the last day that they have to get to respond to the email or the text message or whatever it is that says you have an issue. You have until 10 days after the election to come in with your corrected whatever it is. If you need to sign the oath, you get a signature or whatnot. That's the last day they'll accept those changes.
Okay, I mean, the reason my,
I think they slow down or stop curing because it gets to election day. They don't have time to do that.
right, I mean, here's my concern. In my district, I've had people and delegates win by 6 votes. I've had them by 25 votes. They've been very close. And if you have 30 curing outstanding, or if you have 100 outstanding, it would be good to know, the candidate, for the public to know there are X amount that are out there being potentially cured, not some unknown number. Is there any way we can put in there a reporting requirement at the close of election that there are 17 ballots still being cured, so we have that information, so it's not
If you want to blow
unknown?
up the bill, that would be the way to do it.
What's that?
I said if you want to blow up the bill, that would be the way to do it.
Well, no, I'm serious. This isn't trying to blow the bill up. I'm just saying there are many close elections, even in Senate. And if you're going in and you're at the end of the election, they release the results and they say you're within 7 votes, or Baltimore County executive race, and you have this unknown curing process going on. You don't have a clue of how many are out there. I think it
Well,
would
I don't
be,
think that's true because the provisional canvass doesn't begin until after, see, right now in law, before we had put in the provisions that allowed the early canvass of absentee ballots, that did not begin until the Wednesday after Election Day. So they couldn't even start opening that. And then provisional ballots aren't even, the canvass for them does not even begin until after that. So there's always this small portion of ballots that is not counted on Election Day because it allows that 10-day period after Election Day in which to receive any outstanding ballots. I mean, that has been the law for a long time here in Maryland, because overseas voters or things that get lost in the mail and they come late, 10
Sure.
days has been the standard.
and I get that for coming in, but ones that are still being challenged, basically they voted and they're not acceptable unless they cure them. I would think at least on Election Day, we say we have known 20 in your district, and then daily report as they're counting, and then they just post them on a website, say we've had 5 more uncurable ones. I just think I think it could create problems when you have a very close race, and then it ends up being resolved through curing. And there could be charges like, I'm just saying it could be bad for public perception if we could be as transparent in this process where we're saying we want to cure, but it's open to the public. I think that's,
I think if what I heard is correct, we've had curing post-election on the books for years. That's not new.
Right, we just haven't had a consistent policy on curing. This will add a consistent
This is the early-
statewide policy.
well, I mean, to be honest, it was illegal for them to do that. It was against the law. There was
No, it
no
wasn't.
curing. I mean, we're putting curing in there now.
Right, but
legally.
it wasn't against the law, it just was not referenced in the law.
And what this bill's doing is allowing them to do it early.
I don't agree with that. The law said you had to have a signed ballot, and if you had an unsigned ballot and they cured it, that was against the law. How-
No.
how-
No,
how
if
can
you
the
had
law
an
be there?
unsigned ballot and then they contacted you and said, hey, you don't have a signature, it was not against the law. I don't know what provision of law you're referencing. Just because something isn't mentioned in the law doesn't make it illegal.
I mean, the governor included it in his executive order.
Well, that's,
Well, if it was against the law, he wouldn't have put it in his executive order.
well, I don't know that, I think that makes law, but
It was inconsistent. The policy itself was inconsistent across the state. Some counties were very good about it, and other counties not so much. So this will provide a consistent process throughout the state by which if a signature is missing, they have to do within 3 days, they have to contact the voter. It does,
Right,
and then
and-
and then the voter has until 10 days after the election to finish the process. If they don't, then the ballot is just rejected.
okay,
It's
so
never opened.
that's a side issue. But my main point was, I think we should have it transparent that through early voting, we got all this stuff in and we have counts. And we know at that point, we have 20 uncured ballots that need to go through the process. The next day, they start counting more and they find 2 more. The next day, they find 3 more. Why can't we just post that for transparency?
Well, the whole canvass process is open to the public. So if they start opening the ballots, it's all in public, and people can see right with their very eyes exactly what's happening. So if they get put aside and they don't get opened,
So out of the 6 million some people in Maryland, I would imagine there's a handful that actually go to the
Right.
place. So that's what I'm
Campaigns will have
saying,
somebody.
is if you put it on a website, everybody has access instead of just going there.
Yeah, and Senator, I think, putting that in as a bill, I think is appropriate, I mean, you can try to add an amendment on that now. I think we're pretty late, and I think the House and Senate have come to some agreement on the curing and which ballot to count. I just think it opens a new question.
Okay,
Again,
I'm
you-
hearing what you're saying.
You can offer it, I
I'll
mean,
probably do it on the floor then, if it's not open here.
okay. So I think the bill's before us, let's get it before us, it's been moved, it's been seconded. The amendments conform the key provisions of the Kagan bill, as well as defining when multiple ballots are cast as the bill came in. So any objection to adding the 8 days prior curing and tabulating for the next election and then processing henceforth, and then obviously we can relook at that at another point. Objection to the amendments? Seeing. Amendments. We are putting in what this committee passed on the Kagan bill 2 months ago.
yes, it's Senate Bill 158.
I don't
So
know
we're
what the vote was.
essentially adding Senate Bill 158 into House Bill 862, and we're using the language regarding the receipt of multiple ballots in 862 and striking that language in the Senate Bill 158.
No, it's 158 half of it. Isn't it 163?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's 163.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. 163.
Okay.
We thought it was a Pinsky bill.
So the House amendments, which were deep in the Kagan bill. How many, who would like to be recorded in the negative? Okay. No, on the amendments. Including, we're wrapping in the Kagan bill or part of the Kagan bill into the Feldmark bill. And they will be wrapping in the Feldmark bill into the Kagan bill. That's what we're doing. So I counted 4 against, so that makes it 6-4 adopting the amendment, 6-4-01. So the bill is amended. So we've wrapped the 2 bills together, the finer components of both. Same 4 want to be recorded in the negative? Or would you like us to copy the vote on 163? No, the committee vote, when we slid it by you. Okay, 6-4-0-1, 862 as amended, passes.
Senator, I have a concurrence, if you're interested.
Sure, why not? I think we have about 6 more bills.
Senate Bill 15, Election Law, Campaign Finance, Enforcement. This was Senator Jackson. In general, Senate Bill 15 makes several changes to Title 13 and Title 14 of the Election Law article and the Maryland Public Ethics Law, largely related to enforcement. The bill increases specified penalties, alters the time for the prosecution of misdemeanor state election law offenses, and adds or increases penalties and enforcement authority under the law governing disclosure of campaign contributions by persons doing public business, among other things. The House amendment increases the maximum penalty that may be imposed by the state prosecutor on behalf of the State Board of Elections or a district court on an individual charged in a citation who failed to pay a certain penalty. Apparently, this was language that at one point had been in the bill that somehow found its way out and now is back in. That's Senate Bill 15. Right, so for individuals who are cited and then they fail to pay that fine, the state prosecutor or the district court could decide to impose an additional penalty on them. And it increases that maximum penalty from $1,000 to $2,000.
And was that one originally 25,000?
No, that was a different part of the bill.
So they just raised it to 2,000?
This amendment, yes, it brings in that language and then it raises it from 1,000 to 2,000.
And last question, is that consistent with other parts in?
Yes, that is pretty much what this whole bill does.
Concur? I hear a motion to concur. Is there a second? Anybody object to the concurrence? Seeing none, we concur. 869.
House Bill 869, Wetlands and Waterways Program Division, Permitting for Ecological Restoration Projects Required Study. This bill requires the Maryland Department of the Environment, Wetlands, and Waterways Program Division, in consultation and coordination with specified entities, including the Department of Natural Resources, to conduct a comprehensive study, analysis, and evaluation of various items related to the permitting and completion of ecological restoration projects. The Wetlands and Waterways Program Division must develop legislative and regulatory recommendations based on the results of the study, analysis, and evaluation. The recommendations must address several specified topics. The department must report the findings and recommendations to the governor and the General Assembly by June 1st, 2024.
Can we add 2 delegates to this?
Okay, this is 869. How do I stop this? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Any objection to adopting 869? Seeing none, it is so adopted.
Any option on the cross file, or is that also?
No, so we do have the cross file in this one, if you want to move it. It's Senator Gallion's bill.
Absolutely.
All right, so, and we would have to amend it to reflect the House bill.
Okay, conform the Senate bill. Let's get that baby to the floor.
Can I be a co-sponsor of that?
You serious? Sure. Anybody object to Senator Simon Ayer hopping on to Senator Gallion's bill as amended? Seeing not?
No.
No, it's only a Senate bill. We can't add his name to the House bill. Yeah. And his daughter's not there anymore. We can't even add another Simon Ayer to the. Okay. God forbid. Okay, so we're moving the 2 bills as amended with Senator Simon Ayer. Anybody want to join on that bill? Don't all jump at once. Okay. Do you want a Democratic senator?
If you want to, feel free.
Okay. Okay, we've added Fry Hester and Simon Air to that bill. That's.
See what I started?
You know, it's a study, right?
Major policy change. Okay. I don't need to be on it. I respect my colleague, but I don't need to be on it. Okay,
The likelihood that it's not gonna get to the House, we should put 2 delegates in there.
yeah, add Patterson, Riley,
Okay.
Washington, Senator Carozza, you want on too, or you already on? No, I'm with Senator Carozza. Senator Ellis, Senator Fry Hester, Senator Lamb, and I am not going to call the vice chair. Okay, let's go to 1200. Come on, we've got an important cross file.
Okay, House Bill 1200, Environment, Permit Applications, Environmental Justice Screening. This bill requires a person who is applying for a permit under Section 1-601A of the Environment Article to include as part of the permit application the EJ score from the Maryland EJ tool for the census tract where the applicant is seeking a permit, unless the permit requires the applicant to use a tool developed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So yes, this is the cross-file of Senator Ellis's bill. That's Senate Bill 818. I have included in the voting packet just a copy of the House bill highlighting the differences between this bill and Senate Bill 818. Most are minor, but the biggest change is that the House narrows the type of permits covered by the bill to those listed in Section 1-601A of the Environment Article. So that's air quality control permits, permits to own, operate, establish, or maintain a controlled hazardous substance facility, permits to own, operate, or maintain a hazardous material facility, permits to own, operate, establish, or maintain a low-level nuclear waste facility, permits to install, materially alter, or materially extend landfill systems, incinerators for public use or rubble landfills, permits to discharge pollutants into waters of the state, and permits to install, materially alter, or materially extend a structure used for storage or distribution of any type of sewage, sludge, issued, renewed, or amended. Those are the major permits issued by the department. Those are the ones to which most of the major notice requirements apply. I think the concern was that the broader version of the bill would apply to everything, including, getting a permit to install a septic system in your backyard or whatever.
So are they listed by reference? I don't see that list you read.
Right, that's 1-601A of the Environment Article.
You good with that? Okay, please.
Are incinerators or crematoriums covered? Because it's one reason why I like the broader, are those covered?
So I believe air quality control permit to construct, let me look that up, but I believe that would be.
Crematoriums specifically aren't always counted under that. So from a public health, it's a license, its licensing is granted differently, or it's just handled differently.
Let's see if we can get an answer.
Yeah, I'll just have to
Okay.
look.
Senator, you want to ask a question?
Indicate landfill.
Those are covered.
Yeah, so you're good. No, he's good, I'm just not sure about it.
I missed it. Is this being amended or it was amended in the House?
It was amended in the House, and the question is, do we want to conform the Senate bill to the House bill?
Gotcha.
We sat on the Senate bill. Originally, some of this language was in the climate change bill. The House took it out. So we kept this bill alive that the senator had put in using this EJ screening from the University of Maryland that's being used nationally now. The House finally moved it, and they would probably say tighten it up. a less of a broad use of the screening to this more narrow area.
Okay. And I just did a quick, there was a lot of opposition in the House, and I noticed, I don't know if council knows, did the amendments that they put on it remove the opposition from, I think, the builders, realtors, and whoever MWRA is?
Probably would not have removed opposition from the NWR, that's the waste, that's the landfill operators, so probably did not remove their concerns. The builders probably are happy because this would take things like stormwater management permits out of the bill, or the House version does. I don't know, I mean, I don't see crematories specifically referenced anywhere in the environment article, so I just don't know what environment permits they're required to get.
Next year, thank you.
Okay. Senator.
Quick comment. The House vote was 23-2, so it wasn't like a lot of opposition, it's just the usual. And then on third, yeah, well, on 1,200, right? Yeah, 1,200, yeah.
95 to 37.
No, I'm talking about the committee vote, when it comes out of committee where they took a deep dive. So, yeah, 23-2, yeah. Yeah.
And resurrected their opposition and voted against it on the floor. The two bills before us as amended, adopting the House bill, conforming the Senate bill.
We don't have the Senate bill. The Senate bill has already passed this committee, so the House will have to amend the Senate bill.
I'm sorry. Have they,
They have not moved it yet. My understanding is that they will move it to conform it to the House
Okay.
bill. but-
okay, so the motion then is on the House bill. Who would like to be recorded in the negative? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 6401 on HB 1200. Please let your counterpart know they can do the same to SB and get it moving. SB 818. Okay, next. Real quick, then I have two bills on another list.
Okay.
And I have a receive, not received.
House Bill 1349, this was in Budget and Tax, and EHE is second. Education Support Professionals, Bonus and Report. This bill requires the governor to include an appropriation in fiscal 2024 budget that is equal to the number of non-certificated education support professionals multiplied by $500 to produce a $500 bonus to each non-certificated education support professional in fiscal 2024. MSDE must collect data from each local Board of Education on the number of non-certificated education support professionals in each county and report the data as specified. Non-certificated education support professionals means non-certificated public school employees designated as part of a bargaining unit under state law. $8 million was provided in the fiscal 2024 supplemental budget for this purpose.
Okay, we're second. We dealt with this the first time, correct?
No. Budget and Tax just did. We're second on this bill for them. They voted favorably unanimously on this.
Yeah, we hadn't taken this up earlier in some form?
No?
Okay. This is support personnel who are not included in the blueprint. I think part of this is to get them some financial support, which they didn't receive because they weren't included in the charge to the Kerwin Commission and the blueprint. Anybody not want to support B&T on this funding? Saying not, we let them know we concur with their B&T, right?
Right, so we voted favorable, it goes back up and they report it on the floor. I know,
They
it's
still
that-
got the money, they got the purse strings, we know that. Okay, yes.
So quickly, this is a received request. So I don't know if we've done many of these this year yet, but, so this is the Senate bill that was, this was a House bill that was amended by the Senate. The House has chosen not to concur with the Senate amendments, so they're asking us either to recede on those amendments, so just to accept the original House version of the bill, or we go to conference. So I'm getting there. This is House Bill 147, Maryland Farms and Families Fund, Maryland Food and Agricultural Resiliency Mechanism Grant Program, and Maryland Farm to School Meal Grant Pilot Program alterations and establishment. As a reminder, the Senate amended this bill to restore funding for the farms and families, that stays the same. For the Maryland Food and Agricultural Resiliency Mechanism Fund, the original bill came in at 1.25 million. The House took it down to 200,000. This committee restored it to 1.25 million. The House is adamant that they want the lower number. And then for the Farm to School Meal Grant Pilot Program, the House had entirely struck the mandatory appropriation of $500,000 for it. This committee restored that.
The motion is to not recede and appoint a conference. Any objection to that? Okay, done.
So we also have a receipt for House Bill 136, which is the cross-file to Brindley's Act. Essentially, and I just told Ian I get confused by these, is essentially they're going to make it conform to the Senate bill as we just concurred in their amendments. So we have to vote to not recede, and then they will put on the appropriate amendments, and then we will be good. Right.
Someone today came up to me and was, oh, Senator Lamb, it was you, right? I don't know which issue we take up first.
But you weren't here when we did the Brindley's Act concurrence, when they added that Ebersol amendment, which involved the administration and parental consent. I think you were absent yesterday when we did the concurrence for that. Would you like to take a look at those first?
That one's off to the governor's desk, right?
No, because they were sitting on my desk and I forgot to give it to him for the floor today, so. No, the concurrence is not on the governor's desk yet. Not yet.
I have it on the floor. We didn't get to it. I've got 3 concurrences we didn't get to today.
Right. So let me find
I don't know which to take up first. So what action do we need for the House bill?
I think we have to recede so that so that the proper amendments can conform both the Senate and House.
Not recede, so the conference committee can be appointed. The conference committee has to do the amendments.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, any
Glad you guys
objection?
are here, 'cause-
Any objection to not receding on the House version they sent back to us? Sure.
So by not receding, this will lead to a conference committee, right? Right, just to be clear. Okay. Okay.
Is there any objection to not receding? Okay. Senator Lamb, do you want to raise your concern with Brindley's Act, or just wait till you, have you got anything clarified?
No. And I think you just sent me something now, right?
I'm doing that right
Okay.
this second. Actually, if
Cool.
you want to go on, if you go into the history of SB 299
Mm-hmm.
on the main page, want to turn your mic off?
Let's not worry about that.
let's see here, House Bill 1327, Education, Home, and Hospital Teaching Program for Students Report. This bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education to, one, assess whether students in the home, hospital, and teaching program for students receive adequate support and instructional time to successfully transition back to the classroom, analyze whether local school systems have sufficient staffing to coordinate instructional services for students, study whether transition plans for students returning to classroom should be implemented, assess whether any transition plans should be reviewed or evaluated by a licensed medical professional prior to implementation, and make recommendations regarding any statutory or regulatory changes to the program. MSDE must report its findings and recommendations to the Governor, State Board of Education, and the General Assembly by December 1, 2022. There is one amendment in your packet from Senator Hester. Let's see here. On page, on the last page on the back. And what Senator Hester would require MSD to compare student academic outcomes against the options authorized in regulation for delivering instruction to students in the program and make certain recommendations for integrating with existing virtual schools.
So I want to thank council for helping me with this. My intent was not to move these to virtual schools. It was to look at the range of ways that this home and hospital teaching program is provided, and then to look if it would be a good idea to have some kind of synergy between the existing virtual schools and these existing programs. So the way it's drafted, it's slightly leading, but honestly, I just wanted a good look at how these different modes of instruction are working and what works and what doesn't work and whether it's time to upgrade them a bit. Does that make sense?
In terms of the virtual school, that's part of the discussion going on in the virtual school bills, or not? Would you say?
This is just, for example, if students are in a home and hospital teaching program and the method of instruction is, I don't know, whatever one of the options are, maybe just worksheets or a teacher comes like once or twice a week or whatnot, instead of saying enrolling these students in a virtual school so they get the full benefit of schooling versus that. I think that was her intent, is just kind of explore that as an option. It wasn't to require it in any stretch.
And where's the amendment?
It's on the back page of the on the voting packet, voting list number 44.
Okay.
When I was reading this amendment, I saw it for the first time today, I'm sorry. It says make recommendations for integrating. It could be explore options for integrating instead of make recommendations. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
The sponsor of the bill, and he thought this was a great idea.
Senator Washington.
We're basically just adding 6, so it's just another recommendation. That's it. Yep. Okay.
Bill and the amendment, anybody have any objection? It's a study, again. Any objection? Seeing none, anybody want to be recorded in the negative for this bill as amended? Seeing none. One, 1327.
We're waiting on letters, alcohol bill.
Anybody want to talk about any of them? Okay, it's been moved as a consent calendar on 51. None with statewide implications, hopefully. It's been moved and seconded. Any objection? Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative on this consent? Seeing none, 51 is done. Okay, 468, last one of the day. Oh, and by the way, when I asked about that B&T bill, we had the Senate bill, which we voted on.
We did?
Yes, it was,
I did it for you because you weren't here.
Oh, it feels like a lifetime ago, honestly.
it was Senate Bill 831.
Huh,
I knew somewhere in the back of my brain we had that conversation,
Okay,
although I got a reminder on my text machine.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
468.
House Bill 468, Public School Employees Whistleblower Protection Civil Actions. This bill repeals the prerequisite that a public school employee who is engaging in whistleblowing, as specified, exhaust any administrative remedies before instituting a civil action. However, under the bill, a public school employee who is subject to a personnel action as a reprisal for whistleblowing must notify the local superintendent of schools in writing of the employee's intention to institute a civil action. In addition, the bill requires local school systems to establish an administrative complaint and remediation process for public school employees engaged in whistleblowing and who have been subject to adverse personnel actions. There are no amendments, and there was opposition.
The floor will entertain a motion if there's one to be had. I'm not going to force it. Take a minute to look at it. It's been moved and seconded, Senator Ellis and Lamb. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative on the bill? Seeing none, the bill passes to the floor. Okay. We clearly have more bills, and I get demands all the time, and, we'll keep putting some on. Tomorrow, I believe we have one bill hearing. I assume there'll be a fair amount of work on the floor again. A lot of committees are voting today. We're obviously going to put some work out there as well. I'll get you a list hopefully by tonight of more bills. We're trying to call through it. I got a call from somebody who said, a bill we heard yesterday, why wasn't it on the list? That's unbelievable. It's like we have nothing to do here. We clearly have moved the most bills in the whole legislature. Out of the 6 House committees and 4 Senate committees, we had the second most bills up to crossover. But currently, we have moved the largest number of bills out of the whole legislature.
How do you evaluate that?
There's a report that comes in like once a week. The system tracks it. we have a high-level cybersecurity system here at DLS, which creates a system with bar graphs and everything. Well, I mean, actually, at one point, we had the most unfavorables as well. I mean, we also were sitting on a fair amount, so, yeah, we'll get it to you. No, we did okay. Look, we've passed a lot of reports. Are they all needed? I'm not convinced. Has the House put on their big boys and girls pants? Absolutely not.